Discuss the legislative positions presented by Mr. Orson earlier.
So first, I'd like to start with a small change in what we call this, because it's not really our legislative agenda. I realized as I put this together, and I was talking to Mr. Coleman and others about that, we call this guidance for the 2014 GSBA annual meeting. You know, we'll come back before the next legislative session and make a much more specific legislative agenda. These are really just discussion points of matters that will probably come before the GSBA meeting for consideration. So again, I'd like to call it the guidance for 2014 GSBA annual meeting. So we're not sticking our, this is not our legislative agenda for the year.
Mr. Mayfield, you brought up the point of bringing it to this point. Do you have any specific direction that you would like to give the board regarding this matter?
No, my concern was based on really the earlier label that it had, and if we were expecting to have this position with the legislature, that we had some process for managing it, and that meant monitoring it and putting input into the process. But as a guidance, as a tool, no.
Any other discussion?
So then I think there's really are there things in here, you know, that people want to talk about, you know? Hopefully most of this is not objectionable. And again, I was a scrivener for this, trying to put this into some manageable form. I have absolutely no pride of authorship. Well, we'll have to act, well, like number 27, we'll have to choose one direction or the other. But
yeah, I was bringing up number 27. Are we going to take the alternative language for this? I like the alternative language. Has anybody else looked at it or agree with it?
I mean, you want to go through these things serially, one through? I agree. Yeah. So, okay, so for...
No. In other words, what I think I hear him saying is that he supports the language.
Because one says the council could...
well, they're not really...
they're not that far apart from each other.
Yeah, because the student is not, they're graduating, but they're getting a certificate of attendance. So when you're looking at that graduation rate and looking at that they're being actually configured. So I was confused by the second language because it says that there would be the option, that there would be where the graduation criteria that the special education student would actually be counted. That's what I'm seeing here, but that the district would have the option.
No, I think we have to choose one. I put this alternative language. It was Kirk's suggestion. Do we want to, it's a little bit bolder position, quite frankly, as Kirk explained, that account towards, that we, you know.
Right, yeah, yes.
Any other?
To count toward now.
But it's a certificate, right?
You want the certificate to count toward the graduation rate?
Right.
That's what Kirk suggested. I'm just the messenger here.
Because the other way it says that language about will not count against, you know, like it's being harmful to us.
Right, I think it's sending a message that we should recognize these students in an affirmative way. I think that was Kirk's, and I turned to Kirk because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I had the expertise, so I called somebody who's one of our constituents who I knew knows a lot more than I do, quite frankly, and deals with this on a daily basis. And
yeah, the first language seems to be sort of a negative connotation. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So okay. I would rather, because I think that, you know, when we look at parents, a lot of them are not recognizing. I had a woman last year that told her son to hide his certificate, don't let anybody know that he had received it. And I talked with her at length, you know, as how important it was that he had actually gone through school and he earned that certificate. It wasn't just something that was given to him, but that's where a lot of them feeling as if they're not correlated the same as a student who gets a regular diploma. And they're just as important.
Okay, so it seems, okay, Kurt? Just if you're watching, Kirk, we are listening to you.
He is.
We know.
He just emailed me.
Oh, did he?
Any other concerns? Mr. Coleman?
So I talked to Marshall about this briefly, and I'll only speak briefly. I think I'll be the fly in the ointment here probably in not being able to vote for this. I think a quick just list of things I would want to, I guess there are some things here that I probably wouldn't favor, an example being number 5, just that kind of strenuous language. And then there are a few items here, including numbers 8, 12, 19, 20, 25, and 29, that I just have a lot of further questions about before I'd be able to support, a blanket favoring of this. So you want me to repeat this? 8, 12, 19, 20, 25, and 29. After a quick review, I don't know if, frankly, I'd need to investigate those a little bit further before I was sure that I was supportive. I think Mr. Orson, look, this is a great comprehensive list of the types of issues that we should be considering, but I'm going to explain while I'll probably...
May I make a suggestion from what I'm hearing? It would be June before we go to Savannah.
No, but we got to.
But we have to. Right.
I think there's one other, because I do know if we want something affirmatively added to the agenda, like the language we just talked about in number 27, if we're just going to sort of react to the agenda GSBA puts out to the delegates, and then I don't think we're in the same. I think my understanding, and I may be wrong, is that what we have to send to GSBA is not the votes we think you should take at the GSBA meeting, but if there's something we want them to actually formally put into the proposed legislative agenda. Most of this comes from the existing legislative agenda. So the only thing we're really sort of, other than rewording, so it's at number 27. So I think if we wanted today to just say, the only thing we want you to affirmatively put in the agenda is the language we just talked about. I think we could get to that without getting bogged down in a lengthy discussion about all the items or having to be.
Would it then be permissible, because I hear some people said that they need more time to digest some of the language, would it be permissible then Friday, we will take 5 minutes, I said 5 minutes, John, 5 minutes Friday to discuss it and to make any changes. If anyone would have any changes to make, they can, list them to Margaret so that we will have them to discuss. And then we would take 5 minutes on Friday to discuss it.
Well, and again, I think we can distill it to, so if there's an issue that requires more discussions, for example, let's use John's number 5 on vouchers. Yeah, that's already in the GSBA agenda. So if we want to take a form, we don't need to take that formal position before we're actually going to GSBA, because I guarantee that will be in the proposed legislative agenda of GSBA. It's only if we want something that we don't anticipate that they would put in there, like the language we just discussed. That's really the only thing that's time sensitive right now. So if there's something, whether it's in here, some of this is, and most of this is a distillation of or something I haven't thought of, which is quite possible. Those are really the things I think for right now that we should focus on. So, Kurt's language that I think we have a consensus around is one thing that we'd want to transmit, maybe take a formal vote and transmit to GSBA. We'd like this included in the GSBA legislative agenda. If there's anything of that sort, that's really the only thing we have to get done by Friday.
Okay.
So
then on Friday, we would take this item up first, put it first on the agenda, and we will only take a few minutes to discuss it. Any feedback that you might want to have, make sure you get it to Margaret so she will have it to distribute at our meeting on Friday. At this point, I will I would ask for a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole to an executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel and legal matters. Moved by Dr. Irwin, second by Mr. McMahon. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous.
So I guess we're not going.